Intern and J. Stevens, watching documentaries so you don't have to. 104.7 The Cave.
104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens, back in the studio.
Here we are.
Episode 239. Tyler's got his headphones on. Give me the thumbs up. How's the audio?
I have a t-shirt on.
Mustache update. It is looking great. But he said, and he told me before we started that he almost shaved it. But I was hoping, I'm so glad if you could ask Krista. One of the things Krista asked me this weekend was like, are you looking forward to going back to work? I said, no, I am going to have a panic attack, but it is what it is. One of the things I am looking forward to seeing is how Tyler's mustache is doing.
Oh, I thought you were going to say how I was looking.
I talked to you that. I already, we can't go a week without talking to each other. We might give away the facade that we are. But
always butting heads.
We really love each other.
We do.
We can't go.
We're the oddest odd couple. We're the oddest odd couple there is.
It is actually very similar, akin to a really long-term good band relationship.
Yeah.
We're like, I actually had this recently where I was recording some stuff, and it kind of got brought up about, you know, when you make songs and you give them up to someone else, like there is a level of trust, at least for me, when it comes to the art that I make,
it's your baby,
that I can say, here.
Yeah.
I have that level of trust with you where I would feel comfortable, even though stylistically we're very different. I still trust him enough to where I would pass him that stuff. There are a lot of guys that I work with that I would never trust. And just because, like, what are you thinking?
Speaking of trust,
Tyler's
mustache, it's solid. I'm telling you, I'm still voting for shaving just this part and this part. Right
Don't
here.
ever do that.
Dude,
did I ever show you that picture? You saw that
day.
picture of Chaz, our old sales rep, that when his dad made him do that with the haircut when he had that haircut, the Peaky Blinders, like every guy was getting for about 6 months.
It starts out of the stream.
It starts out of the stream. Interestingly enough, I talked about recording this week was my pick. It's a documentary about a band named Failure. It's on Hulu, Disney Plus. If you didn't know this, there was a band in the mid to late 90s called Failure. They recorded a number of records. The last one in the 90s that they recorded being Fantastic Planet before they would break up. They would lie dormant for almost 16 years until Maynard, the lead singer of Tool, put together a concert for his 60th birthday, and he demanded that they would be a part of it. Part of that being that they loved Tool, and more specifically, Maynard loved Failure as a band, so much so that when they were touring, they took out Failure, I think, like 5 or 6 times on the road. So when he got back together, he was like, these guys have to be back together. So they started playing together again. They put together like a GoFundMe for that first record, and we'll get into that. But to me, from a point of doing a record in 1997 to 16 years later in I think it was like 14 or something, to make the sequel to that record and make it literally sound like no time had.
It sounded
you tell me another band that's done that.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen often.
I did not know much about the band Failure, but this documentary was it was really good, man. It was very cool.
You were in this grind. You were there.
I mean, all these clubs they're talking about, I've been to all these clubs. It was just kind of
There's a chance you party with these dudes at one point.
It was like the window that they came up was the window that I was.
You were leaving?
Not there. Yeah, it was like a window. It just the timeline was a little bit off.
You had gone to.
I don't know if I was back in Hawaii or something, but there was the timeline. There was a window.
I was hoping this was the magician period where you had gone off to be the street musician period.
The street magician period was. What would that have been? That would have been 2006, 2007.
So not there yet.
No, the 90s would have been, these guys was the 90s part. So that would have been, I was in LA and then I went back to Hawaii and then I went back to LA and I think there was a little window there. That's where these guys came up.
Okay. The band, very indicative of the 90s sound. They are very... really dissonant chords, diminished chords.
I could definitely see
why I like this band so much.
100%. When I heard this music, I was like, This is like
Mike.
this stuff Mike Intern writes.
Mike's
you write the same kind of stuff, dude.
This time, I could not tell you how happy I was to hear Ken Andrews say at the end, because he got into a couple other projects, Year of the Rabbit and stuff that he did after this, but mainly he learned, because he went into this as a film student. He was a film director at UCLA and then dropped out because he wanted to make a band. He didn't start out as a musician. He started out as a filmmaker, which was interesting that he fully circled to direct this at the end, but he's a very much got the production acumen that I do. Likes to see it through. Greg called him a finisher. Yeah. I am very much like that. I'm also a creative, where I, at a certain point, let things go, where I don't feel like he does, where he's very obsessive. But what he said that I love to hear was, to him, the process is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And to me, I am the same way. I literally took vacation, and part of that vacation was to sit in a room and record a record on my own by myself with my wife, and that was it. If anyone ever hears it, I don't care. The only thing that I was involved in was making it, and that is where I find peace. It's just like painting a picture. It's like going out with a bunch of camera equipment and going into the middle of the mountains and taking photos. I guarantee you those guys are going to tell you the process is in which they fall in love. It's not the finished product where they're standing there looking at the painting. It's the act of doing it. And to me, to hear one of your heroes, the guys that you've looked up to for years, say that,
the same thing,
makes you feel like you've been doing it right, or you're doing it right.
There you go.
And we come back, it wasn't always sunshine and rainbows with these guys. We'll talk more about the band Failure, Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. 104.7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens in the studio. It is Dark Side of the Stream episode 239, a documentary about a band called Failure on Hulu. I think it's called Every Time You Lose Your Mind or something like that. But just search a band Failure and whatever, you'll find it.
Another band that got screwed up by heroin.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. This has been going on since the 60s. How does nobody learn lessons?
What's the crazy thing about that story is that Greg, the guy who really got into the needles, he had been very vocal about how, like, before this band had started, he was super into like psychedelics and taking hallucinogens, and had a very bad.
Expand your mind a little bit.
Yeah,
that's okay.
Had a very, very bad acid trip, and they actually have a clip, a video of someone off camera, and it's camera asking him, "Have you tried heroin? Would you ever try it?" And he says, "I would never do that because if I go in a dark place, I feel like that would do too good of a job of masking the darkness inside of me." And he ended up falling into that hole anyway.
So foretelling, yeah.
Which, I'm sorry about that, Tyler. Which again, that just shows you the dangers of addiction. The dangers of that specific drug. But it wasn't just like, it led to that, but he was doing all kinds of stuff. So it wasn't just like he was just a heroin junkie. He was doing all of it and everything in between.
When they get the heroin, that's usually where the downhill slide accelerates big time, it seems like.
And it's speaking of, having experienced a lot of these things, the way he talks about addiction is right on the money. The justification that you make for yourself, that, like, there's a story of after Fantastic Planet had been finished, Warner Brothers still wanted them to make another record because we'll get into that too, because there's so many things that this band, like, they just got met with every turn. But after they're about to break up and it's bad, they're doing the writing, they're gonna do writing sessions, and Greg keeps missing them, and finally they make a date, and then he calls Ken like an hour before he's supposed to meet him, and he's like, "Hey, could you come pick me up? I'm having car trouble." And he's like, "I'm at this music store."
Car trouble.
He goes over to this music store at Ventura, and Greg is standing there at a keyboard just playing. He's covered in white dust, and he's got blood all over his face. And Ken's like, "What the hell happened to you?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think I got into a little bit of a fender bender." He had passed out behind the wheel of a car and drove it into a Benz dealership on Ventura Boulevard in LA. How he was able to how they let him walk away from that, I'll never know.
It must have been after hours or something.
It was during the day. He said he had been up for 2 or 3 days and just passed out. And he's lucky he didn't kill someone, lucky he didn't be alive. But the point of this is, even after doing something like that, he still justified it to himself that it was okay and kept using.
Yeah.
And that in addiction, that is in itself
That's what
the essence of
happens.
addiction and why it's so dangerous. Eventually, Ken said, "No, we're not doing this," and they all walked their separate ways. But it wasn't just that. We'll talk more about this band Failure next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Jay Stevens, Mike the Intern, back in the studio. It's Dark Side of the Stream, episode 239, discussing a documentary about a band called Failure. It's on Hulu and Disney Plus. So they had some okay success. Definitely getting brought on the road with Tool. I thought it was funny that how I think Kelly Scott, their drummer, talked about how like right before they would take the stage, Maynard would sometimes come out there and say, "This next band is way over your heads. You're not going to get it, and you suck. It's Failure." And then they come out. I mean, it's like I love that Maynard would do that, but at the same time,
accurate. You know?
But I mean, that's not a way to sell a band. Like it's like you're not going to get this. Well, anyway, here we are, the Beatles. It's hilarious to me, but
so we should start our show. These next guys are way over your head.
They're never going to understand.
It's you're not going to understand it. You're going to think it sucks.
Yeah, we're
these guys are too cool
never
for you.
Never going to do that. They're on Slash Records. They get basically some deals when you make records, you can get the money at the front, and they use that money to buy a bunch of equipment, rent Lita Ford's house.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Which you got, I mean,
very interesting. Yeah,
they recorded all of Fantastic Planet in that house. And do it as they went, which to me worked. There are a lot of bands who did this. OK Computer was made this way, but kind of also on the road. But it works, and it allowed them to understand how to produce, to get that sound that they're known for.
Well, it sounded like the one guy learned how to do it so well that he ended up just working.
Being a producer after the fact, and it's produced. Yeah, he definitely did, and learned. And he was smart. He had again the production acumen to do that. They are 2 songs shy of finishing the record. Slash Records goes under.
Yeah,
they are told that they can finish the record, which then they come out with. They finished Heliotropic and Daylight, which to me are like the bangers on that record, and then you spent what, a year of your life making this thing that you think in the story that Kelly Scott tells about how after they go under, they don't know if it's ever going to see the light of day. So he would take his bike, ride it into Warner Brothers Records, dub as many tapes as they would let him dub on a day, because you could do that on a daily basis. You could do like 10 or 20 a day, and he would go in there, he would dub 20, and then go out and pass them out. Just pass them out. And they did that for a year and a half, and then finally, Warner Brothers says, "Yeah, we'll put this out." But by that point, you hadn't been a band. I mean, you hadn't really done anything together, and then you got to go back out on the road, and all the problems that had been facilitating themselves
on the wall
become even more problems, and it just, it exploded, and then they end up, falling apart. But then again, years later, Greg gets clean. They start working together again, and Ken and Greg's partnership is really, really good. They put The Heart is a Monster out, which is a phenomenal record. And then they've done 2 other ones since then. Your Mind Will Be Your Furthest Thing from Your Body, and Wild Type Droids, which they sound like Failure records. They're produced great. I've seen them twice live since they got back together. I saw them on the first show they did on that tour after they reunited, and it was just like, I couldn't believe as a fan that I was in the room hearing them play Fantastic Planet, and it just like sounded perfect. And the fact that it was just 3 guys up there doing all that, it was unbelievable. And they were so good.
Cool.
We'll be back with more from this documentary next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. Jay Stevens, Mike the Intern. We're back one more time. It's Dark Side of the Stream, episode 239, discussing the documentary about a band called Failure. Do me a favor, please go watch this. I want these guys to get...
I would like to come as a guy that knew nothing about it. I've only heard about Failure through Mike, and through seeing Fantastic Man in his room, in his studio. But what a great documentary.
Yeah. It shows you how the realities of a band,
just
the realities of addiction.
It was well made.
The realities of the business.
I got connected to the characters, and it was nice, man.
I think Ken did a phenomenal job. I saw a very early version of this, maybe like a 30-minute version, probably about 4 or 5 years ago.
Sizzle reel or something?
That they played before we saw them, I think the second time. And then they were working on it. It had What's-Her-Face, the vocalist from...
the chick from... I know what you're speaking of.
Why can't I think of the name of her band? She's amazing. Anyway.
Red-haired girl.
Yeah, red-haired girl.
God,
but they had a lot of those in there, and
Paramore.
Yeah, Paramore. the bottom line is, they say many times, failure is a musician's band, and I implore you to check them out, buy their records, keep them going, because I love
it's
them.
not my cup of tea, but I can appreciate what they're doing.
They do great stuff, and again, I could not be happier that they're continuing to make music and make relevant music.
What do
in
you
my
rate
opinion.
the documentary? Then?
I would give it a straight 5 because I love them and I'm biased.
Yeah, this one's definitely the Mike the Intern one. I would go 4. Nice and good documentary. I learned a little bit, and it was cool.
So no chicks, makeup and hairspray, bro.
Yeah, I would have liked a little bit more bikini girls and jacuzzis, but
you know what's interesting is I literally was going to come into this. You could tell that I was on vacation and I'm chilled out like hardcore, because when I was watching it weeks ago, I go, the first thing I'm going to say to him is, it's interesting. We've seen multiple bands with documentaries about bands and stuff, and your favorite band had a very famous one where they spent about 5 minutes talking about the music they made, and then we watched one of my favorite bands do one, and they spent about an hour and a half talking about the music they made. That should tell you all. But I didn't even go there until I just remembered that I was going to go there.
That's exactly.
I mean that in the most positive way I possibly can.
So for my pick, I guess it's kind of a slim pickings for documentaries right now. So we will go with something that's going to probably make Mike mad because he hates guys that are entitled. The Brett Favre documentary, Untold, on Netflix. The fall from grace that Brett Favre has had.
What do you mean, stealing millions of dollars are supposed to go to?
There was a lot of stuff in sending.
Supposed to go to special needs children.
Dong pics. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
He's a great guy.
There's a lot of weird stuff that goes on there. This guy.
Okay, cool.
But also a great quarterback. So there's like this give and take of.
He was a good quarterback.
Imperfect humans,
He's a good quarterback.
Yeah,
not a great guy though.
Yeah.
You can be a good quarterback and a horrible.
And that's what you get from this documentary.
All right.
So we'll watch this.
We'll watch it. Football's coming up, and that'll get us in the mood.
Yeah, get us in the mood for football season, baby.
Yeah, we're a week away from. We're about training camp.
Really?
Yeah, believe it. Stream the show online, 1047thecave.com, or as a podcast for free on our 104.7 The Cave app. Or you can listen to me do it live at 9 a.m. on Thursdays. Jay does it at 6 p.m. the same day, or watch us do it live on Facebook. That's why we have all this gear, and we'll make Tyler come here and do it.
Or remind Tyler to bring his headphones the next time we record.
Yeah, either way, I'm Mike the Intern. That's G. Stevens. We watch
documentaries
so you don't have to. Starts on the stream on 104.7 The Cave. Beat up. So man. Tendon?